I'm going to reconvene the public session. John, will you please give a report of actions taken in closed session?
Yes, the council considered that matter listed on the agenda and has no reportable action.
Thank you. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Robin Grunmeyer and the invocation by Pastor Britton Bowman from the Community Church at Norco. Please rise.
I mean a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening.
Good evening. I would invite everybody to bow their heads, if they would. O Lord, please instruct this council and teach them in the way that they should conduct this meeting. Please counsel them with your loving eye on the city of Norco and its needs, directions, and purposes. Let the aims of this meeting be aligned with your sovereign will and your desire to bless those who follow your statutes. Let this council's plans be orchestrated by you, and I pray that all here today seek you for advice. Let us not make decisions based on our limited wisdom, but let us act based upon your infinite wisdom. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." Lord, as this council commits to your will, let the plans be established. We thank you and praise you in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Good to see you again. Thank you. Okay, we have a few presentations. We're going to start with the Community Spirit Award, and I'm going to call upon Councilmember Bash to present the Community Spirit Award. Kevin?
Could I have the Veterans Committee come forward? So it's really a pleasure. Just a little bit first about this Spirit of Norco Award. We realized during the pandemic that there were a lot of unsung heroes that were doing things that were extraordinary. And so we began to select people throughout the community that were doing incredible things. So my turn was to pick the George Ingles Veterans Memorial Committee. I don't know if any of you went to the Sunday unveiling of the Gold Star Family Memorial. Mr. Lemus, I think you have somebody in your family on the wall. The reason I brought the mayor down is prior to Andy Okoro finding money for the original memorial, he was actually going to take on putting together a group of volunteers to help build the memorial. So he, even though he's not a member of the committee right now, he was very, yeah. So, one of the things that you notice is that this is the group that oversees the banner program. They're the ones that oversee the red, white, and blue stripes, even though that did precede, but they make sure, I'll tell you, if those don't get painted once a year or twice a year, however much it is, they make sure they get painted. But they also have galvanized and brought together veterans. The memorial that was built is first class. It is the envy of many, many of the communities, and the recent unveiling of the Gold Star Family Monument, we got a lot of oohs and ahs. But more importantly, what it's done is it's created a centerpiece for Norco, for residents of Norco. And these guys work their little behinds off. They hand out pins. One of the things, we were the very first city in the state of California, and the second in the nation, that actually hands out a pin for the 50th anniversary commemoration of the Vietnam War. And I mean, they carry pins around in their pockets, and if you were a Vietnam veteran, they make sure you get a pin. Ted, he makes sure with the staff, we have a wonderful staff, Ted makes sure that we have flags up, and he makes sure that everything's just perfect. And these guys really work hard. The other thing is Larry, well, in fact, all of them, they sell bricks. One of our ways we raise money is we have a plaza, and it has bricks dedicated to anybody who was honorably discharged from the U.S. military. And they set up these booths, and they do hours and hours of standing, and sometimes in the hot sun, and trying to get people to do bricks. And by the way, for them, I don't believe it's about raising money. I just think they want to see veterans honored. And I know Waste Management is here. You guys have given us money. Thank you so much. I see Jules back there. She's one of our major sponsors. So in a way, indirectly, you guys are part of this committee. One of the things I'm hoping they're getting ready to do is the George Ingles Memorial Scholarship. I think they're going to take that on. So there's a lot that these guys do just to bring up the spirit of the community. They're very interested in preserving our history. They're very interested in honoring veterans, and they've galvanized a whole bunch of patriots who were not veterans to support this memorial. So I thought that this would be the group to honor at this time, especially with the unveiling on Sunday. So what I'm going to do is Ted Hoffman is the chair. I'm going to go ahead and let him speak for a couple of minutes, and then maybe if one of the fellows wants to talk, they can have at it. But first, I'm going to present this to Ted because he's the chair. The Norco City Council applauds you for embodying the spirit of Norco. So congratulations.
I can't say it as eloquently as Kevin, so that's why he was master of ceremonies, and I welcome him to do that at our Gold Star Family Monument. One of the things, and I'll share this with you for those in it, we also had from Supervisor Spiegel presented this recognition to the Veterans Committee for putting the Gold Star Family Monument there in our plaza. And I guess the best way to say to the plaza, if you have not been up there, you need to go. It's just not me, but it's this group. It's a place for us to go to reflect. As a veteran, it's important that we remember those that serve. For the Gold Star families and for those people that have lost themselves, one of the things you will always remember is don't forget their names. And for those that serve and those that were lost. And that's what this is about. If we don't remember or place or put a place for us to be recognized, we forget. And generations will forget what we did here before. And that's why we need to remember and keep it going. So with that, I'm going to ask any of my fellow committee members. Larry will. I know he will.
I cannot miss an opportunity with this amount of people to let you know if any of you are veterans or you know veterans and you'd like to honor them with a brick in the Circle of Honor at the memorial. It's a great thing to do for them and for you. The easiest way to do it is interweb, Norco Memorial Brick, and it'll come up. It's so simple to do. If you have any questions before I leave, ask me. And as Kevin said, I do have the Vietnam pins that we give out, and I learned this trick from Larry Cusimano, and just give them off your hat and give them to veterans. It feels so good to talk, especially when you see somebody that says Korea, and you do the math, how old they are, and the things that they've seen. It's just amazing to talk to these guys, and that's why we do it. So thank you.
Yeah, I will. Trip over this thing. So who we have here is Don Kramer, Vietnam veteran. Larry Cusimano, Vietnam era veteran. Larry is also a former mayor of the city of Norco. Larry Eckhoff, USMC retired sergeant. I have JT Groot. He's also a commissioner here in our Parks and Recs and an Army veteran. Vietnam, yeah, I've been over here. And this young man over here was a colonel in the Air Force and March Air Force Base. He did a lot of stuff. His wife is also a former reserve and a Air Force veteran. They flew in those big birds and the little birds and everything else that flew. So, and went to drones. So, we welcome Don Kramer. And of course, you know, Kevin sits in there and he keeps us straight. And Kevin, for those you don't know, Kevin is the kind of guy that will, how much money? And he goes finds people. He's got that ability. And all of a sudden, hey, this person, they want to give us money. Oh, that's cool. So a lot of this stuff is Kevin. So, and I can't forget, and I wish Brian Petrie was still here because he was a really instrumental in putting some of the Veterans Plaza. But Michelle, you've taken it over with Amanda. They've taken it to the heart. And so they've embraced the idea. So it's a good thing. So it's picture time. We have a couple other members that Ron Warren, who is in the hospital right now, and Bill Schwab, who's Lieutenant Colonel from the Marine Corps, that is also not feeling well. So, right there. Okay, let's do it right there. Come on up here, get close. Close. Come on up here, JT. This wouldn't work.
I'll be looking over the top.
Here, John, hold that. Here you go.
There's one other person who is an unsung hero who actually most people don't even notice because she's so far in the background. But from day one at the memorial, she saw to it, and I know she lost money on this thing. She makes sure that all the flowers and the wreaths that we have there, she makes sure that we have them, and they're a big part of it. And she's a Blue Star Mob. Mayor Pro Tem Robin Grunmeyer.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, this is a good thing also. So I'd like to call upon a few community members to accept the Pride Proclamation on behalf of the community. And if you're in the audience, please step up. Richard Escobar. Good evening, Richard. Jacob Daruvala. Okay. Jared Scott. Jen and Donna Smith-Lyon. Evening. Good to see you again. And two very good friends of mine that I nominated, but since they've moved to the Azores, and it is approximately 7:15 tomorrow morning, Scott and Michael DeRosa. Okay, bear with me. Whereas, in 1969, the Stonewall Uprising, also known as the Stonewall Riots, occurred in New York City and transformed the gay rights movement in the United States. And whereas, in 1970, the first Pride March was held in New York City on the one-year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. And whereas, in 1999, President Bill Clinton designated the month of June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And whereas, since 1999, American presidents have designated June as Pride Month to commemorate the anniversary of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising and reflect on the significant roles that the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals have played in shaping U.S. history. And whereas the city of Norco recognizes its local LGBTQ plus history and reflects on the strides that we have made to ensure all citizens feel accepted and included. And whereas the city of Norco is a diverse community that is honored to celebrate the history and legacies of the LGBTQ plus community members who have contributed to the economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development of our city, state, and country. Now, therefore, I, Greg Newton, Mayor of the City of Norco, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2022 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the City of Norco, where all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions to our community. Thank you. Could I ask if you care to speak? Please feel free.
Hi, I'm Jen, and I realized this year is my 30th year as a resident of Norco. And I just wanted to, I wasn't really planning on saying anything, but I thought, well, my wife Donna and I, we were married in this town 10 years ago now, with 250 people at our wedding. And while we have always felt really welcome here and just always felt love from Norco, I realized that my voice and my experience isn't everybody's. So I just wanted to say what a big deal it is for you guys to recognize and continue pushing for diversity and kindness and acceptance. And the town is amazing. We are full of so many wonderful people. But just starting from the level of mayor, you know, through all the city council and the city, and promoting this kind of event and just acknowledging that we are a diverse town, just it says so much, and it's truly, truly appreciated. And I know not, you know, I know that like you get a little bit of heat for it, but it is appreciated. So thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Hello, my name is Jacob Daravala. I've been a Norconian for 20 years, since I was 6 years old. I went to all of Norco schools from kindergarten through Norco College, and I'm so proud to be a Norconian today. I still live in Norco, and I work for a local organization known as Divine Truth Unity Fellowship. We're a faith-based nonprofit that was founded as a place for LGBTQ Christians to have a welcoming and affirming home for them to practice their faith. We run a program today called Rainbow Pride Youth Alliance, which is an LGBT support and extracurricular activity organization for youth in the Inland Empire, where we have support groups and we hold events and bring together families as well, and help families through the process of coming out, you know, when their children are coming out. And that is what Pride Month is ultimately about. It is intrinsically linked to the process of coming out, which so many LGBTQ people know as a process that for some of us works out really well, and for many of us it doesn't. For many of us, we're faced by rejection from family, friends, professional rejection, faith rejection from our communities, and that rejection builds broken families, broken friendships, and broken people sometimes when it comes down to suicide and violence against LGBTQ folks. And so as part of the process of Pride Month and holding these events, what we're not saying is I'm just proud to be, you know, an LGBT individual. I'm saying I'm proud to be the person that I am today. I'm proud to have survived to be the person that I am today. And I invite everyone to do the same, that we want everyone to feel that you can be yourself, that you can be loved and accepted as who you are, and that will help us build strong families. It will help us build strong friendships. And Norco is at the forefront of this process today of reconciling our community together and celebrating who we are in love. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this today. Thank you so much to the council. It is so important, and I really appreciate the chance to speak about this as well.
So before we get to a photo, I'd like to speak on behalf of Scott and Michael DeRosa. They're very good friends of all of us. Scott served our community as the chairman on the Economic Development Commission, and Michael served the city as a member on our historic preservation committee. They were true Norconians. They're our friends, and they made me laugh. So if council would like to step down and join us in a picture.
Also an FFA student. Oh, sorry, where's the picture? Right there.
Let's move on to City Council reports on regional boards, and I'll call upon Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer to start council communications.
Nothing to report.
Good report, Robin.
On June 13th, I attended the SCAG Riverside County Housing Policy Leadership Academy, and this last session we really dove into the different ways that different jurisdictions are funding affordable housing across the region.
I attended quite a few things. Highlights with Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer, we met with EAT, and at the end of the evening I'm going to make a couple of recommendations, but I'm really excited the direction that's going. I know it's going slow, I get it, totally understand it, but I'm real excited about that. I'll let Ted talk about the unveiling if he wants to. The revenue and taxation we recommended to we did recommend that we vote against all outside casinos, gambling, voted against that. And then kind of an interesting, I got a call from someone who was asking about they were asking about a June 1942 incident in which Leslie Marshall, the executive officer of the Navy base, confronted a group of Rotarians, which was actually the front for the Ku Klux Klan, and said, if you don't serve all of my sailors and Marines, Corona will be off limits to the United States Navy because they had an African American who was a Pearl Harbor survivor. And what I didn't realize, the reason the man was calling me was because that was reported on June 19th, which is Juneteenth. And I was really surprised, and so they're going to make sort of a big deal. Most people don't know that the only desegregated naval hospital in the entire nation was in Norco as an experiment that they didn't know if it would work, but they had no place to put everybody to split them up. And the official, it was Navy and the military was segregated, and it was very successful. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Ted?
Like Kevin, I've been busy. I think the biggest thing is the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting and RTA Commission committee meeting. We just approved the budgets for this coming year. Let me tell you, they're scary. The Riverside County Transportation Commission is in the billions now, is what they spend. And what's scary is the interest rates, as you know, have just gone up today, and the amount of projects they're going to try to get accomplished. And what I'm going to suggest is to make sure that when you go visit their website, Riverside County Transit, they're doing a major campaign right now. The state is just trying to control everything has to do with roads in not only our county but all statewide, and it will hurt us. It will take away what we can do locally for our own roads. So please go through there and look at them. It's just not one law, it's a bunch of laws. And then as we flip through on the other ones, I really want to thank staff for the installation of the Gold Star Family Monument. Michelle, Amanda, Chad, and everybody, and Amanda's staff, and Todd. You cannot thank him enough, supervisor, for what he did in there to make that place look presentable. And we talk about the guys that came in on that day. That was a Sunday. They came in. And earlier, Kevin remarked, oh, even Larry, take the pin off your hat. I took my pin off. The truck driver was from Georgia, Larry. He was telling us about his dad. He served in Vietnam. It was cool, so we started having stories, because what you do as your veterans. And I gave him my pin off my hat, because that's what you do. You make sure. And he treasured that along. That was something he was going to give to his dad, so it was important. And those guys from Kentucky, the installers, they were a lot of fun to work with. They all had their stories. This was their 69th installation that they did of all this Gold Star Family Monument throughout the United States. And out of the 100 and some that have been put in throughout the United States. So very important, this thing. And if you haven't been up there, and I can't thank Matt enough, he spent his Sunday, and the 2 Sundays in a row, once the installation and the video, and Michelle, sometimes we'll put that on the webpage. You got to see it just to understand it, and the ceremony. And because if you weren't there, you missed it. Big kudos to the Blue and Gold Star family, especially Chapter 30, which is right here in Riverside and San Bernardino. You got to appreciate what these ladies did to coordinate that and help put it together. And like I said, this is for generations. And other than that, I do have one thing, and this is, as you know, I'm on, I also go to WRCOG meetings. I'm the SOPA representative, and we got to chuckle out of this one. SOPWA has contracted for a group to go through and test the water in the Santa Ana River for the homeless camps to see what the bacterial count is, and also any other runoff that comes through there. But this year, they've added money into to see how much the feral pigs and how much a problem the pigs are causing on the bacteria count in the river. I see head shaking. I'm not saying, but that's if they had the money to do it, that's what it is. So we got chuckles, but the pigs are down there, so they want to see what the actual detriment is. And that's about it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Ted.
On June 2nd, I attended the special board of directors meeting of the Chino Basin Desalter Authority, and there was no reportable actions from that meeting. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar, and I'll call upon the city clerk, please.
All items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Prior to the motion to consider any action by the presiding governmental body, any public comments on any of the consent items will be heard. There will be no separate actions unless members of the governmental body or the audience request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar. Items removed from the consent calendar will be separately considered under item 3 of the agenda. And Mayor, I have no public comments for these items.
Thank you, Dana. Do any members wish to pull any items?
Mr. Mayor, if I could pull J as in John,
Okay.
L as in Lincoln,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. J?
J, L as in Lincoln, and Q as in Queen. And if no one else pulls anything,
Well, I do.
okay.
I also have Q and item 2C.
Motion to approve the rest? Lost my. Arrow, my check. There it is.
Go. It'd be Councilmember Alleman.
Broken.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first item, 2C, and this is the Planning Commission recap minutes. Alma. This is kind of probably some city attorney input also. So, understanding that, we all believe in feeling and promoting the success of any project, I have a couple of concerns with the conditional use permit for Freddy's Restaurant and the Dutch Brothers Coffee. So, what jumped out at me was in both these resolutions, or CUPs, planning asked the Architectural Review Board to go back. I'm surmising that Planning Commission was not or was concerned about the architectural elements on this item, and requested on both of them to go back to architectural review. So my concern there is that perhaps we would lose some leverage in with the Architectural Review Board if this is approved, and then go back to the Architectural Review Board. Okay. And then my other concern is with the Dutch Brothers Coffee, as far as the traffic, and making the assumption that they presented some traffic numbers, but my experience in watching what happened in Eastvale on Limonite and the stacking and how that traffic backed up, have we verified their traffic numbers? And those are my two concerns. And my recommendation that I would like to see is that like I said, certainly like both these projects, I want to see them move forward. But I think this should go back to the Planning Commission, to the Architectural Review Board has completed their review at the direction of the Planning Commission, and then have the Planning Commission review all the architectural elements. So they're satisfied at this point, instead of, because I feel this is after the fact, and then whatever your answer is on the traffic as far as verification.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
Well, I'd like to hear Alma's response first, please.
So with respect to the architecture, the Planning Commission, in a nutshell, they didn't have recommendation for a major overhaul of the architecture, but wanted some more architectural elements that reflect more of a Western design, meaning either they wanted to add some more elements, be it some Western silhouettes to the building, that kind of stuff. It was pretty minor, and that's why the recommendation or the approval was that the project be approved with the recommendation that their modifications be added for review and approval by the Architecture Review Board and work with staff. As far as the traffic, the project, the way it was laid out, they incorporated three. The problem that was the biggest concern was the amount of traffic that, of course, the Dutch brothers would draw. So to help minimize or at least address the traffic issue, the project was developed or proposed with 3 drive-through lanes. And as far as, and with the queuing of, if I remember, up to 27 cars. So, and they also approved the project so that when traffic exits the Dutch brothers, it would be forced to the south or to the mid block of where the signalized intersection is at mid block. So the Planning Commission felt comfortable that that would help mitigate the impact of traffic. As far as the actual traffic numbers that would come to the site, that's something that the project proponent basically believed that it would be mitigated with the amount of drive-through lanes that were provided, and that if there is, and they have some traffic mitigation measures, so should there be a huge influx of vehicles at the onset of the project. But as far as actual numbers coming into the project site, I don't remember the exact number. I don't know if Chad remembers anything on the actual amount of traffic that would be coming to the site.
I don't think there was any specified numbers as part of the project because of the scale of it. It's not required to determine what they are. I think what they tried to do was certainly recognize they had an obvious success in Eastvale with the number of vehicles and they're drawing from all the neighboring communities to their one location. They felt that certainly by having another Dutch Brothers in a nearby location, it would help dwindle that impact and would draw into Norco's store, but they also doubled their capacity that they had at the other location so that they can try to adequately have the stacking that's, if even on the initial where they posted the initial opening where you usually get your biggest crowds, because even now Eastvale seeing that dwindle dramatically as far as what they were originally experiencing, which was pretty substantial. They thought that adding more space for queuing and doubling the amount of vehicles that could be there would satisfy the concerns as far as being able to handle and get those vehicles off the roadway and not having them careen 2 blocks down the road.
How could we verify then?
It's a very good question. I don't know how we verify it other than we can definitely document they have the queuing available in space. But like any business, we don't know how successful it will be and whether or not I don't know how to gauge that. It's one of those quandaries where we talked about is you have what appears to be a successful, desirable element to come into your city because of what had success other places. But how do you judge it's not going to get the same impact? I don't know how. I mean, that's something we actually talked about, and the only answer they could give is what they tried to do was we doubled our queuing so that it would keep people hopefully off the roadway, and in their process, how they moved the cars through and their queuing times is what they talked about also as far as trying to get those vehicles out and not have them just stage there for an hour trying to get a cup of coffee type of thing. That is a difficult question.
That's hopefully why I'm asking it,
I know,
because
sorry.
what I saw in Limonite here a while ago, that backup was, I'm not exaggerating, shy of about a half a mile.
No, it was
And-
substantial.
Yeah. And so we know how it goes in this town. As soon as it starts backing up, I just, my gut tells me I think we just need a little more study on the traffic, and I would just feel more comfortable with, let's clean up all the architectural, even though it's minor, because I know these businesses are going to be successful, but let's try to get it right the first time, I think. And it like you said, Alma, if the architectural stuff is simple, then the Architectural Review Board and Plan Commission can clean it up.
Okay.
But go ahead, John.
Since you asked for city attorney input,
Well,
I knew
yeah,
you were
because I
gonna
know
get there
what you're
eventually.
gonna tell me is this is binding.
No, it's not binding,
Yeah.
but the only way that you have the ability to control it is to appeal it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can appeal it if it gets resolved prior to coming to you. I suppose you can dismiss the appeal, but you don't have the ability to simply send it back to planning. This is just a recap of what happened in the planning commission meeting. It's not agendized for anything. So you need to appeal the granting of the conditional use permits, schedule them, and if the traffic issue can be resolved before then or it'll be resolved by you. One of the things you can do at the appeal hearing is send it back to the planning commission if you're not happy.
Or if we're satisfied with the
If you're satisfied, then
architectural
you're
and
done.
the traffic.
Yeah, then you're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask what your thoughts are, Ted.
Can I can ask a question just because the traffic was brought up. The timeline for building this or their opening, just
That I don't know at this time as far as when they'll actually submit.
and the only reason I'm bringing this up is the traffic issue, because currently we have the project, the Santa Ana River project, where we have all the heavy trucks going down Hamner between 5th and 6th, and I would hope that one would be done before the other one opens. So now we just probably should look at that, because if they're still hauling those doubles back and forth.
That's a
and all those-
2-year project with the,
Yeah, so
with
that's
the
what I'm saying. That's what I was asking.
slope
the timeline.
stabilization.
Yeah, thank you.
Robin, any thoughts on that? Catherine?
I'm not in favor of appealing it. I think the planning commission did a good job at addressing the issues that are there, and it was a 4-0 vote, so I support that.
Kevin? Okay. I'll go ahead and then just make a motion to just let it be. And if you feel that you can work out this architectural stuff and we're not going to get any trouble with it on that way, and when they're going to be successful, and when that traffic backs up, okay, you know where it's going to fall. So I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve that item.
Yeah, just receive and file anyway.
Okay, to receive and file.
Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ted, you had 2J.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Chad, I guess is yours. And I'm looking through there, and I'm trying to wrap my head around these emergency orders from the governor and water resources. On page 227 of the report, it talks about, and that would be the use of potable water to irrigate turf on commercial, industrial, or institutional properties and things like that. What's the curtailment that we see? I mean, and I bring this up because we don't have recycle or tertiary water at any of our parks that I know of. So, we're going to have to adopt this emergency regulation. And what do we do about dust control and things like that? How effective are we going to be?
So in regards to public locations, usable turf, functional turf, that's exempt under this ordinance. It's really non-functional turf, which should be, the most strips you see in front of commercial areas, industrial areas. That's really the intent of that particular section. Is what the state's looking at right now. If the issues worsen, where they're trying to reduce it is basically, the frequency of watering and the times you can do it. That's how they're trying to on the larger areas like the parks and the larger areas. Obviously, we don't have alternate water sources that we could use to reduce our potable sources at this time. So we can only do and reduce and limit what we can control.
Right, and that's the reason I bring this up is because we're asking if we do this resolution, and I understand the need to do it, but how do we? I guess I look at it as a resident and some of these contractors, if they see us using the potable water or they see us using our water up at the parks and things like that. I'm throwing Ingles out of print because we have to use the water to control the grounds and things like that. If it gets to the point where we have to justify using it, but you telling a resident or a business, hey, you can't. I want to be the fair guy too, and because when this happened before, I know that we got a direction up at the parks to curtail the amount of water we were using up there for dust control. So the state's asking us to pass this resolution, but I think we have to look at the full impact it's going to have on everybody. And let me go on the other part of this too, is on page 287, and that's in level 3, right? In the level 3 water shortage of this thing. Have you read this?
When you say 280, I apologize. I'm looking at the agenda. It doesn't show me page numbers. So is there?
Okay. It's on page 52 of the ordinance for that, Dale. And it's regarding construction.
Okay.
Now, we're only in level 2, correct?
Correct.
So what do they ask? Do they anticipate us being in level 3?
No. We're only required to be at least, again, implement our level 2, because that's the closest that we have that meets all their criteria. We're actually going to come back at some point to make sure we have all their criteria and modify the ordinance to include those sections. So this is level 2, implements most of them. That's why we highlighted in the staff report. There's a couple items that we have to come back to address, meaning like for example, our watering times restrictions don't match theirs. So we'll have to come back and modify that via an ordinance so that's in effect. But we at least still have already a window that tells people you should only water between this time and that time.
Okay, because and like I said, in this, where we go through and do this whole chapter in the ordinance, we go into water shortage response level 3, where we have a water shortage alert condition. This is the ordinance.
Yep.
And it says potable water may not be used for construction purposes. Non-potable water or recycled water must be utilized.
If it's available.
That's not what it says.
I know, but I'm comfortable to interpret that you can't put something together that doesn't exist. So if we don't have potable or non-potable source for businesses that they can and we would not enforce a requirement that businesses couldn't use potable water for construction.
But shouldn't that be? I mean, you say you're comfortable with it interpreting it, but it says potable water may not be used.
Right.
Okay. So, and the may is the catchword there because it's down there.
Right.
But I'm hoping that down the road, because this is an ordinance written, and we don't have non-potable or tertiary water available in our city, and so that's when I'm looking at this, and we talk about construction, and we have two big commercial sites. Do you anticipate us going into level 3?
I don't think anytime soon. I think this was their first big salvo, recognizing they needed to do something to at least force every water supplier to enact their ordinances, which is their first effort in their salvo was to go to level 2. I think that'll probably be in place for, I would guess, at least a year before they ever determine they need to go to the next one. But again, with the state, anything can happen. But I think right now they're comfortable with the state implementing this and then see what the results are. They want to see whether or not folks respond. Do we get conservation? Does the demand for water go down, especially on the state resources? So I would guess they're going to take a reserved look and at least wait a year to determine if they need to go to a more drastic level. But the state can do.
Wait a year? Dude, we got less than 50% of our annual rainfall this past year. And the year before that, we barely made that. So we're way below. So, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. If the May is the thing, and I just want to see construction, we don't have it available. And if the city attorney feels that's comfortable with that, on that wording.
Wait, I mean, ultimately, when we get to level 3, you're going to get to address that. If it's not available, it's not available, and you're going to either. Well, I mean, I think actually you won't be alone. I expect most public agencies are going to be faced with the same issue. That you'll I mean, you can modify it now if you want to, but you'll modify it language to say if available.
So we just tell our construction it's put on hold.
Yeah, I mean, you can't simply say no water.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I had, Mr. Mayor. And if no one else has any questions, I'll move to approve. I just want a clarification on it. I make a motion to approve the item 2J.
I'll second it.
Please vote. Councilmember Alleman? I don't know why yours isn't coming up. And your vote, Councilmember Alleman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. And as opposed to motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. Item 2L, Ted.
All right, water is my common theme here, and in Chad, I see that, and I'm glad you're going to fix that pump. My question comes to on that pump, and I know you said we have a backbone up there for areas all the way to Ingles Park, which finally you're acknowledging. My question to you on the design and that they talked about, and going into. This is the one we go into the water at, on page 312, and I don't even have this. And you asked for the estimation on the design engineering. And it says upgraded pump station will have the required capacity to pump to the Lake Narconian turnout, but will not have the required capacity or surge equipment necessary to convey water to the city's other connections or the city of Corona's recycle station, for lack of a term. Are we just fixing what we got and not trying to make it bigger?
So, a couple items. One, as far as Corona, there's no agreement with them to take our water, to use our water. We've tried to have conversations with them, and they unfortunately have not come to the table at this time. So, part of me was having to choose: do I build something bigger for something that may never be used? And if I don't have a willing partner, it's kind of difficult for me to justify the additional expense to do a larger, bigger design. So in the bigger picture of this is number one, trying to get water to the Navy, because we currently have a non-potable water well that we use to provide them water, which they would have asked for multiple years if there's another source that be available, because that non-potable well has iron and manganese and other issues with it that they really want to improve the water quality of the lake. So we did let them know that we do have now the rights to use reciprocally claimed water, but we have to work on repairing the infrastructure to get it here. and certainly it's a very straightforward process if we just upgrade our pumps and some of the valves that have been there. Again, that stuff's been there for over 15 years, and it's all basically seized up. Got to replace it. We've determined the electrical is functional. It's there. It should work fine. The switch gear should be good. It's really just improving the guts of it. We can definitely turn on the spigot and get water to the lake and give them the water that they would like to have. In regards to getting it across town, yes, the pumps that we are installing, which are basically matching the original, would get it comfortably to where our current and mothballed booster pump is and storage tank up at Neil Snipes. That's basically a 30,000 gallon tank. It's booster pumps that basically capture water, and then that booster pump pushes it across town. So that was the methodology that was built when the original infrastructure was done. Kind of get it to a midpoint and then boost it across town. That's what gets it across town. The future discussion is whether or not that tank needs to be a lot bigger for actual storage, because it's not very big. If there was going to be a future, so that would, to me, was a future discussion that we would need to have as far as additional infrastructure. That using the infrastructure for our parks. The immediate goal was to try to simply get water to the Navy. That's better quality water, meets their needs. With the idea, and I had to struggle with, do I also build larger infrastructure that just may end up not being used for that purpose? So in short, that's where we're at this point, was we're focusing on the Navy's needs. In theory, based off the current system, I can get water all across town through the infrastructure. The biggest problem is that, which was never resolved in the original design, is by not having storage in place to actually provide some of the existing pressure and relief to the system, because you can't run your pump all the time. The water has to go somewhere. And obviously for irrigation, for any of our parks or Ingles, you need a pressurized line. And that's our struggle, in that this current system never had a relief valve to where that pressure could be released, so, and a storage that helps maintain pressure, or you use a jockey pump or a pneumatic tank to keep that pressurized. So those are a jockey pump or a pneumatic tank is something we'd have to look at in addition to making maybe our system function, because the way it works right now is the relief valve would be the lake, because I could just open the spigot and it's like a hose at the end. It just keeps pouring until they say stop, we don't need it anymore, and I turn off the pump. So that's one of the things we've talked about with the engineer and operation of what we do in the future, and where we would go with recycled water, how would we use it. So there is other infrastructure beyond this that if that we built later on and found a location for it, these pumps will get that water to it, and then your reservoir potentially could feed one half of the city one direction, and a pump could feed it the other direction to provide pressure. So that's a future discussion what needs to be done. This particular one, for me, solves the lake issue of getting water to them, and the pumps are sized as they originally were that would work on our system. It's just trying to figure out where we're going to get and install a larger, more functional storage system, so that if you want to turn on the water in Ingles, it's got more than 2 psi of pressure.
So, and I'm glad you responded the way you did, because I like the idea of future. In your negotiation with the Navy, is there a possibility where we can utilize the Lake Narconian, the body of water there, as a reservoir than an open reservoir? Correct? Is what you're thinking?
The agreement basically states that, right now we've been providing water, the Navy, for free, non-potable water. The agreement actually says that if the city uses Lake Narconian for storage, that it will provide water to the Navy in perpetuity for free while we're using it as storage. Obviously, for me, I'm not using it as storage for any purpose, so technically any water that would be potable in nature or any other source they should pay. One of the things we've already talked to them about, recycled water, they would need to start paying for that water, and we'd have to figure out a rate. But if we felt that we could design a system and they would allow infrastructure on their property, which is a big caveat they're not really excited about, any infrastructure of ours on their property, that where we could draw from the lake to potentially use it. It's the same principle, though, of my pump at RCRA is drawing from the Rickra Lake and pushing across town, but there's no relief valve, there's no storage.
Right.
So while we have storage at the lake, it's the same reservoir as Rickra, and we're pumping it, but I need to maintain pressure, so I will have either I leave my pump on or I have a hydromatic tank on. But to have a hydromatic tank of the size needed to get across town at the elevation and maintain a meaningful pressure might be a sizable infrastructure because of where it's located. I'm trying to get closer to the other half of town, which makes the infrastructure smaller.
Okay, because I look.
The answer is yes in theory, but we'd have to engineer figure out how we would do it and ensure the Navy would allow that infrastructure on their property.
And the reason I'm asking because this just came from the California Groundwater Live, and just already in the first 6 months, there's they have 129 wells dry up in the state out of 348 that went dry. So, when you look at that and you look at the numbers and the public supply and that, you got a reservoirs are sitting. I look at Dominagoni up there, and this report just came out. He normally has 89% capacity, and now we're sitting at 67, and those numbers scare me because that means our groundwater isn't being replaced or replenished, along with the the number of monitoring wells. When they're 63% below normal in the state, that means we have a water problem. And I'm looking at ways to capture that water. As you well know, it's been my big push is to use that recycled water up here in the city. And I would hope that as you look future, that's what that Proposition 1 money was used for. And we need to start capitalizing on that and get these projects so they can be submitted to us in the future. If you're getting federal money from Calvert's office to do this, I know, knock on wood, because it's right there from the Navy. Let's get it done. There's water sources out there. They know there's an issue here in Western United States. So I just one of the questions asked why the pump wasn't, and I understand that. So, but we need to start thinking about not next year, not 2 years, 5, 10 years down the road. It's going to happen again. And I want to be ahead of that project instead of worrying about shutting off water because we don't have enough water. Okay. So with that, Mr. Mayor, unless somebody else has questions.
Good question. 4 or 5 years ago, we talked about the recycled pumps when you first started. And I'm trying to think, is this one in the same? Because those pumps, they hadn't been used, they had been seized, and along with redundancy, I thought they were like $400,000 each at the time.
I don't know what the cost was at the time as far as when they were constructed, but our estimates from the engineer as far as just to replace the pumps and the valves that are there is less than $500,000.
So Andy, if you remember the conversation we had about that on those pumps, do you recall that number? I know we didn't want to move forward with it at the time.
I don't recall the exact number, but we can get that number.
Okay. So that's part of my concern with you saying your budget's going to be $500,000. And that's what's sticking in my mind from that first conversation on the pumps and the redundancy.
Right. And I think I remember what you're talking about when we originally looked at that, but we were with that project, we were upgrading the switchgear.
Okay.
We were doing bigger pumps. It was kind of a bigger upgrade because again, at the time we were talking with Corona about potentially them taking some of our water, so we needed to be able to move more and also pressurize it into their
Right.
system.
We were anticipating we'd have a customer.
That was a much bigger
Right.
upgrade,
Okay.
which included the electrical, which is one of the biggest costs we had was just for the switchgear.
Mm-hmm.
Working with a couple of the vendors, it was pretty costly just for that. So there was a bigger price tag because that was a much bigger upgrade.
Okay, so you're comfortable with this budget number?
Yeah, because we did our due diligence, again, until we get it all started, we verified the switchgear was functional, it was still operational, it had power. Obviously, we couldn't get anything to turn over. So we do need to put the pumps in and get everything fixed, and then turn on the engine, and hopefully everything's working and there's not some other, monkey in the mix. But we're pretty confident that we can get this thing going, and we're not oversizing it for any reason.
Okay. Your motion, Ted.
I move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Last item, 2Q, Ted.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this is more at Lisette. And I know, Amanda, you put this together in extension, and I'm just curious as if we, and hear me out, Lisette and Amanda, if we push this thing back until 6 months for this contract that you have here, it ends up in January, correct? But normally the LMD fees all have to be done by August 10th, correct? Is when you submit it. So that's when the county will do the assessment and put for the property tax roll. So you're pushing this back until January. If this is a major increase or the bid increases, are we going to be short? Or how does this affect the assessment on the amount of money that comes in? And that's what I'm saying, is because you're normally your property tax where this is done is you're collected in November and in March, but you're not going to have. But these assessment fees are figured for prior to that and on August 10th.
The LMDs were based on the 7% increase. So we do run that risk with the LMDs for this upcoming year. If we do get a higher than 7% bid, but this next year we are going to look at online bidding. We should get more competitive bids for this project, and we're hoping for something comparable to this percentage.
Okay, and this goes back to Lisette. Are we? Is there a potential for us being on the short side on the LMD receiving? I know LMD4 has ample in there, but yeah, the other ones, 2 is under. But what do we do with the other ones that are just paying their bills? So are we going to be short? Because the money doesn't get collected, it doesn't automatically come back in July. It doesn't come back until the following month. And I know we've always had this issue with the LMDs. I'm just asking.
Yeah, so the engineer currently is working on the district engineer's report that will be coming to you at, I believe, the next council meeting. If that does happen, there will be a deficit, but we are also anticipating that working with those LMDs that will have a potential to continue with the deficit to do a Prop 218 hearing as well.
So that means they could look at a 218 hearing for the following year, but you're still short because the assessments don't come out and the money doesn't come in until later.
Yes, that is correct.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking the question is you're doing a bid process in mid-year and the money doesn't come until later, especially on the LMDs because of the way they're structured with the assessments.
The bid process is not going to change the assessment that much. Most of these LMDs are already maxed out.
Correct.
So, regardless of what the bid comes in, it's not going to change the level of assessment. Now, so
but are we going to have ample money in those funds to cover that?
Yeah, so we've always struggled with some of this in terms of cash flows, but part of the engineer's report factors in that 6-month cash flow needs. So when this report comes to you, what you're going to see is a line item that says where this district's potentially will be by the end of next fiscal year. That need for cash flow. But again, the situation unfortunately cannot be solved because they, they are maxed out with them.
Yeah, that I'm aware. I'm just so that we all understand, we may see deficits come up, and when we look at these next year, because of this, because this bid process is mid LMD year, for lack of a better term, so in the process, and that's. Do you see that? Do you foresee that possibly happening? Be short? Okay, that's what I'm asking. All right. That's all the questions I have.
I have a before Amanda question. Okay. So here recently in the past, we had some issues with Brightview as far as performance, communication. They made certain commitments. Do you feel that they are upholding their end of the contract?
We've had a lot of progress in the last month. We also have a new area supervisor. Communication has gotten better between us. They've been providing detailed reports, and we've been working well. They've gone over the punch list for both the LMDs and parks with our crews to try to make us happy. And it's gotten better. We don't have a lot of, we're worried. You know, we're going into this new relationship very cautiously, but we believe that it's time to go out to bid and to see, to clean up this contract and to see what's out there. And hopefully we get something, you know, that is comparable to this percentage and that is clean, clear for not only the contractor, but for the city.
So you're feeling their performance is improving, but if this is only a 6-month contract and we're going out to bid, I would like to make the assumption that they would still want to continue to do our work.
Oh, they do. They don't want to lose this contract. They do not. That's why, you know, they took so long to give us just a 6-month extension because they wanted at least a year. They have been doing good, but like I said, it's only been a month with the new supervisor, so we are a little cautious about that.
Thank you. You want to make a motion on that? Or I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. We'll now go into public comments, and I'll call upon the city clerk.
This is a time when persons wishing to address the presiding governmental body regarding matters not on the agenda may be heard. Please submit a speaker card to the meeting clerk. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the governmental body's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. The governmental body shall not discuss or act relative to any general public comment. We do have speaker cards, and the first one is Bob Broshier. Sorry, Bob.
That was a swing and a miss.
It was.
We call Bob good neighbor Bob. Hi. Microphone.
Most people come up here and tell you what to do, what you shouldn't do or think about. I have a good story. I had a bathroom remodel done, total gut. Eddie the inspector was out, I think 4 times, signing off on different steps. Each step he was fantastic. He was on time, polite, easy to work with. Contractor said it was great. I'm a retired municipality worker, so I know the image. And I just wanted you guys to know that it was great. I mean, it was job well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Next is JT Group.
Good evening again, JT.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you. I would like to talk about the horse that got on the freeway. In my travels, I have been to many states, including all over California. We have seen many cattle guards installed as a deterrent for livestock getting on the roads and freeways. There are two main types of cattle guards: above grade and below grade. I feel the above grade would work best in our location. The below grade is a pipe structure that requires removal of the unit to clean it. As we have dust and trash, this would probably be a very reoccurring cost. The above grade is simply heavy paint. Thus, the maintenance would be less. We would need 8 of them, 4 at 6th Street, 4 at 2nd Street. This is not a foolproof deterrent. Some livestock will cross them. This is a good deterrent. This is proactive. It may slow or turn them, keeping them off the roadway. This would be a practical solution to this issue. I thank you.
Thank you, JT.
Next speaker is Lacey David.
Good evening, Lacey.
Evening, Mayor and council members. Some of you may know me. I'm Lacey David. I work in the building department as a permit technician for Alma. I also work in the planning department as a planning aide, but I am also the Norco General Employees Association president. And I just wanted to take the time to thank you for recognizing the employees' dedication, and we look forward to working with the businesses and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey.
And last speaker is Bonnie Slager.
Hi, Bonnie.
Good evening.
You're not going to throw anything, are you?
I probably can't throw that
Okay.
far more. I did want to add the memorial celebration on Sunday was fantastic, and the Gold Star Mother, it's just beautiful. Also, I wanted to comment last night, the animal control people put on the equine herpesvirus, and it was sad that only about 5 people were there because it was really well done and good information and very well explained. And so everybody that has a horse and a chicken should have been there last night. I thought I knew about some of these things, but I learned I didn't know very much. So thank you for them for putting it on. And my third thing is it's time to buy fair buttons. The fair will be Labor Day weekend again, finally, after 2 years off. And we are selling buttons. We're doing it a little different this year in that the buttons are all pre-sale. Buttons are $20, and that's good for the whole weekend. At the gate, we will not be selling buttons at the gate. Instead, you will be purchasing a wristband that's only good for 1 day. So I happen to have a few with me tonight in case anybody wants one, and they are available in most of the stores on 6th Street. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Mayor, I have no further public comment.
Thank you, Dana. We'll move into discussion action items, and once again, I'll call upon the city clerk.
Order of presentation for discussion items, staff report presentation, council questions of staff, public comment, and council discussion and action.
So we'll move into item 5A. This is various appointments to various commissions. Dana, this will be you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We're still not moving with our changer. But anyways, I'll let you know. So there we go. Tonight, for our annual recruitment, we have 4 scheduled vacancies for term ending June 2022. Parks and Recreation Commission has 1 scheduled vacancy, Planning Commission 2, and Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission has 1. The requirements for serving are per our Norco Municipal Code Chapter 2.22.040 is to be a citizen of the United States, be a permanent resident of the city, be at least 18 years of age, take and file with the clerk the oath required by Section 36507 of the California Government Code, and no felony convictions. Our recruitment began with a notice that was released by my office, the city clerk's office, on May 2nd, 2022. The application deadline was May 31st, 2022. Applications were received and provided to the council for review. The process this evening is applicants will have 3 minutes to speak on their behalf if they choose. If there are applicants in the audience, please fill out a speaker card and bring to me, and I will call upon you to speak. Following the applicant speaking, the mayor and city council will deliberate and make appointments to each commission. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Does council have any questions of staff? Seeing none, do we have any applicants that wish to speak?
Yes, I do. The first one will be Jim Pollard, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak, Jim.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Jim Pollard, and I'm running for Street, Trails, and Utilities Commission. My family and I have lived here in Norco for 45 years. I served in the U.S. Army for 3 years during the Vietnam era. I've seen lots of changes here in Norco, and as Chad puts it, I was probably here when we were lighting our streetlights with candles. Let's see, I'm an assistant scoutmaster with Troop 33 here in Norco. Member of the Norco Horsemen's Association. I serve on the Norco Fair Committee. And after 2 years, this is pretty exciting that we're doing this. And everybody get your buttons. I volunteer each week at the George Ingle Equestrian Center. I've been married to my wife, Pat, for 54 years. As you can see, I'm dedicated to the things that I do in my life. Raised 3 grandchildren. And, so I try to teach the youth giving back to the community, not only in scouting, but in my everyday life. I'm willing to work with other commissions and the city staff. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jim.
Our next speaker is Amy Murrow.
Good evening.
Hello. So I was here a few months ago, and I'm here again because there's openings, and I couldn't serve on the commission I was actually appointed for because it was the only one that met during the day, and I'm a teacher, and I couldn't be here during the day. So I wanted to come back. So again, my name is Amy Murrow, and I've been a homeowner in Norco since 2005. I have 2 boys. They're 13 and 16 years old now, who have gone to all of our schools, started at Highland, Norco Intermediate, and Norco High School. I have 2 horses that I ride all over our city trails, and I have livestock also. I've been an elementary school teacher in our district for 26 years, 13 at Riverview Elementary, and now I just finished my 13th year at Louis Vandermolen Elementary. I enjoy volunteering, and I have volunteered for Norco Little League, the city's basketball program, 100 Mile Club. I've volunteered at Highland Elementary for many years when my children were going there. Raised 2 guide dogs for Guide Dogs of America. I volunteer at Grace Fellowship in their nursery, and I love living here. It's a really special town, and I would be honored to have the opportunity to serve on any of the committees wherever you would see fit for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last speaker card, Jeff Shue.
Evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Thanks for having me in front of you again. As you know, I am a current sitting member of the Planning Commission, but I want to come in front of you again to let you know that I do not take the appointment for granted, that I take it very seriously. And within my time there, I've always tried to make sure that I study up on the material ahead of time. I reach out to staff, Alma, for any technical clarifications that are necessary ahead of time. I just want to really let you know that even in kind of difficult decisions, I always try to push a little bit further to get more of the technical information, specifically like recently with the Freddy's and the Bronx Brothers. I tried asking a lot more technical questions to get them to provide more and maybe give some of the concessions in return for that. And I feel that I've been successful on that front. So I'm asking you to appoint me again for that, because I feel very fulfilled in this role. I feel that I'm serving my community, and ultimately I want to be able to help protect this community that we have and really push for the Norco lifestyle. With a minute and a half left, I want to ask, is it possible for me to speak for someone else who's not here? Is that allowed?
Jeff, I can't do that.
Okay, that's
Sorry.
fine.
That would
Thank
be
you
a
for your
no.
time.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mayor and City Council, I just want to make sure that you did see in front of you that Audrey Pavia did send in a written statement that she was unable to be here. Also, Leah Neitzel. And then came in before I was able to print it out was just Jim Boggs. He also, and it was just one sentence that he had a prior commitment and was sorry he could not attend tonight.
Thank you, Dana.
And with that, I'll be handing out for you guys to vote.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if it's no, go ahead, Dana. This is, while Dana and probably Amanda are calculating, is this appropriate time to have Andy speak about what we did with the EDAC commission, or just so people know it's why a commission in the future, if you got it, just to share with us?
You don't have to, Andy.
It's coming back to you at your next meeting.
Okay, just so people know, we didn't forget about it on this deal.
So the structure of EDAC is being reviewed. We have met with a couple of council members and staff, and also a member of EDAC who is a part of that working group. And we've arrived at some recommendations that will be coming to the City Council. In the meantime, there is no recruitment as a result of that structure being reviewed.
I just want to say that I appreciate the applicants in person and those that have reached out either by phone call or emails. Don't give up. Keep trying and I always look forward to Kevin telling us a story about how long it took him to get on it.
Tell that story. It took me forever to get on, and when I finally got on, I served 10 years as Park Rec Commissioner. It was really a lot of fun. Just don't give up. And this time we had, I don't think I've ever seen so many qualified applicants. This is really a tough decision.
And I want to thank the community for stepping up and putting your applications in. And also the applications, I like to remind everybody that they are kept for 1 full year. So any other unscheduled vacancy or anything that come up between now and next year when we do annual recruitment, I will reach out and let you know that the vacancy is available. And if you do want to keep your application on file. So it's not as though you have to apply every single time you see something online. Just give us a call if you have questions or you want to talk to me about some of the commissions. I'd be happy to work with anybody also. And thank you for participating. So tonight for Parks and Recreation Commission, it will be Leah Netzel, the incumbent, will remain. In the Planning Commission, the incumbent Jeff Shue will remain, and Thea Sullivan was appointed. For Streets and Trails Commission is Jim Pollard, our incumbent. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into item 5B, rate adjustments proposed by Waste Management for fiscal year 2022-2023. Andy? Lisette?
Hi, good evening. This item is to propose the rate adjustments proposed by Waste Management of Inland Empire for fiscal year 22-23. Waste Management is requesting an 8.59% increase that is based on the CPI index, as well as the pass-through disposal costs for our solid waste disposal, our green waste, and manure. Our residential and commercial service franchise fees will not increase and remain at 17.9%. The pass-through fees that are included are the solid waste disposal costs, which is the Riverside County's tipping fee, which is at 8.59%. That disposal costs will, with that increase, it will be $46.35. The green waste and organic disposal cost will remain at 85.22 per ton, and that is based since as of January of 2020, the city's green waste and organic is being processed by Waste Management South Valley facility in Tulare. The manure disposal component of the rates will also increase. This increase will be for $38.93 for a 95 and 96 gallon manure cart, and the 2 cubic yard manure bin for $139.13. Our residential rate will be at $34.86 with this adjustment. And our scale fees are also increasing with the CPI adjustment. We do have Glenda Chavez from Waste Management here also if you have any questions. And with this, I would answer anything.
Thank you, Lisette. Do we have any questions of staff? Kevin?
What's the raise in the scout fee?
Yeah, it's just a CPI of 8.59.
What does that translate into actual dollars?
Let me look at the the rates. So for the, where's my scalp fees? So for a 2-yard 1 time a week, it will be $49.82,
And what was it before?
$45.79.
Thank you.
Catherine? Robin?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. And so, Lisa, I don't know if it's a question for you or a question for Andy or potentially for Glenda. So I'll start with the one that's probably easier. There's a letter, attachment D from Vera Montez, that talks about their increases. The manure waste, current rate is $24.20 per ton. The new rate as of July 1 will be $26.70 per ton. However, in the letter addressed to Glenda, it does talk about the fact that fuel costs are going up and the cost of red dye diesel. And it states that that it's currently at $3.96 per gallon. If it goes up above $4.50 per gallon, there would be a fuel surcharge imposed. So I'm wondering if whatever potential approvals are done tonight and then this little caveat goes into effect, is Waste Management eating that fuel surcharge, or does that come back to us at council again, or how would that potentially work?
The contract does not provide for any automatic fuel surcharge to be applied. So we're looking at the proposed rate increase, and that is what the contract allows for.
Okay, so it would not impact our costs or the residents' costs.
If there are increases regarding that, we would cover those costs.
So Waste Management would
Yes.
bear the burden of that. Okay. And then the second question probably is, it's either Andy or Glenda, I would assume. In the staff report, it talks about the alternative disposal options. That clause has been in the contract for a long time. And I'm just wondering if it's this exercise in futility or if there's actual efforts being put forward, or if it's just one of those things that's in the contract. So we'll have a meeting a couple weeks before this contract comes to us for review so we can check a box. So I'm just going to state, like, I have concerns about that. I think it's been brushed over at best. And especially as we look at all the other implications of the state regulations and what they're coming down with us on. And then the second part of that would be the advances in technology. Just, I've only been on council since 2015, and the advances in technology in that time, I would have hoped at this point in time we would have seen some more substantial progress in that area, or some more meaningful discussion in that area. So from your perspective, is it really just about checking a box, or is Waste Management really coming to the table to be innovative and be a partner with the city of Norco in that particular area?
So I could assure you that we take that meeting, and even if we find anything that is available to you, we wouldn't wait till that meeting to present it to you. Unfortunately, right now, as much as technology is advanced, we still have the best outlet for Norco's manure. It's only 3.5 miles from here, and it's at the lowest cost. I do have our director of operations for the Inland Empire here, who is Kevin Mattson, who is the organics person that comes and meets with Greg and Ted annually, if you have any questions. But I could assure you that we do have a dedicated team, and if there were something that was potentially available, we would provide that information to you guys. And it obviously would come at an additional cost than you currently pay right now, because there's an investment in infrastructure, but we're keeping our eyes open.
Thank you.
Ted?
Glenda or Lizette, when you said scout fees are increasing by the CPI adjustment, but in the earlier part of this contract, you're using the 8.59 CPI for the adjustment?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not going to change it, because as of for Riverside, San Bernardino County, and the Ontario area, it's figuring out at 9.4 right now.
Yeah, so our index is
So,
based
I mean,
on January to January.
Okay, so we're not using that. We're not going to jump it up to the 9.4.
No, what's presented tonight is what we would be applying for the 2022, 2023 rates.
And then the other thing is, okay, I don't know if this is answer to Chad or to John or Andy, but we still haven't figured out what to do with our private haulers and things like that. We still haven't come up with a solution yet on that. The people that hold the manure, we're still sitting there is, what do we do? And so we got to get that resolved. As we sit here, we're trying to do a contract. We haven't resolved that thing yet. And I agree, Robin. That fuel surcharge scares the hell out of me. I don't know how long, Glenn, you guys can handle it. I paid the other day at almost $7 a gallon for diesel fuel. And I know the red dye diesel, even though it doesn't have the taxes because they're not used on roads, is probably sitting at easily over $5, if not $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's why for us contractually, we have to provide you with the necessary information to calculate the rates and provide you the supporting documentation for that. And so, as the letter does state that, we would be covering those additional costs.
okay. I don't have anything else, Mayor, at this time. Thank you.
Good. Evening, Glenda.
Good evening.
Question for Andy. And I'm trying to remember if it was in this contract or maybe the previous contract, but I remember a fuel surcharge from Waste Management.
I think it was in the previous contract.
Okay.
I think there was a time Waste Management tried to ask for fuel surcharge.
Mm-hmm.
My memory serves me correctly, that was not allowed at the time. And
See, I thought it was, but
maybe that's what happened. But again, this one specifically, there is no provision to allow for that.
Okay. All right. So I have a question for
And
Lisette.
all our trucks are CNG, so we wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. Lisette, I had a question for you. Oh. In your discussions with Waste Management on this cost increase, did staff try to negotiate this down?
Yes.
And to what levels? Okay.
Yeah, we did meet with Waste Management to preliminarily review the proposed rate increases. And following that meeting, we did ask Waste Management to go back and consider perhaps requesting an increase that is lower than the CPI, which the contract provides for. They did go back and look at that and came back with some ideas that would be contingent upon potential extension of the contract in lieu of granting a reduced rate increase. But in my view of that is that the two items are separate. I encourage them not to look at it from that perspective. We didn't have more discussions on that simply because I felt that we were not going to be looking at a quid pro quo. If there needs to be an extension of a contract, that is something that should be handled separately. With that being said, of course, they still could have granted a reduction in the proposed rate increase. So we wanted to treat those two things separately.
Okay. So what were those numbers? What was being presented? We'll drop the cost increase by what percentage for what term and extension of the contract?
We didn't get into the details of that discussion again because I felt that that was not the best way to.
Okay. But one had to go with the other. Okay. All right. And my last question at this time is for John. What is the threshold to trigger a Prop 218 hearing on this?
There is one.
Generally, then.
Yeah, I'm not.
I mean, there was nothing which would trigger a Prop 218 hearing on waste hauling. I mean, that's not subject to Prop 218.
Then why does it become a statement of fact in our staff report under recommendation?
I think the statement in the staff report is in the opinion of the city attorney, which has been here because the city attorney has opined on that this rate adjustment does not trigger a Prop 218. So we do state that in the staff report.
Yeah.
But nothing would trigger it?
Well, I mean, in theory, if the base rate, I mean, what you're doing with the reason and part that this doesn't trigger Prop 218 is part of an existing contract.
Okay.
It's a different subject about whether the base rate is subject to a 218 hearing at all, whether the statute applies. But the city's held functionally the Prop 218 public hearing, but it's when you award the new contract with new rates or you adjust the base rates, not I mean, this is just complying with the terms of the existing contract.
Okay. All right. Are there any further questions?
Just for the people listening, can you define what a 218 hearing is?
Which is a hearing that you provide notice to property owners that have an opportunity to come and attend a public hearing and trying to make this simple and express their displeasure or pleasure with the proposed rate increase.
Thank you.
Mr. Just one. Lizette, on your fiscal impact, you say that the franchise fee will remain unchanged at 17.90%. The rate increase will result in additional franchise fees, a revenue of approximately $76,000. The city's general fund currently, what are we getting total? That's in addition to.
In our operating budget, I don't have it with me, but
It's in
million.
1.5 million.
All franchise fees.
So this is going to put us about 1.6. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I saw that now. I just wanted to, again, this is not only for my edification, just reading it so that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Glenda. Dana, do we have any cards?
We have no public speaker cards on this item.
All right. We'll bring this back to council discussion and action. Catherine? Kevin?
So, on August 5th, 2015 is when we made the drastic change, and that was a 4-1 vote. I think that was the time when we should have, there's only 2 of us left that voted on the issue. For me, and I know that there have been problems with waste management, but for me, I've been a customer since April 1st, 1995. They've been very good for me, and they come on my property they've come on my property literally every single day during the week. I think I had great reservations about the new contract. I made, not that I'm clairvoyant, but I made many predictions about the problems that we would encounter, and that was not listened to. One of the things I was concerned about was the Scout service. We had fought it back previously, and basically I was told, because I owned a business, well, just pass it on. And I said, well, you're going to lose a lot of horses as this goes on, and sure enough, we've lost a lot of horses. And so in terms of I felt that at that time that the manure to energy situation needed to be more strongly worded. I don't necessarily blame Waste Management on that because I think my expectation was not what we actually agreed to. My expectation was they would be more proactive, more um, innovative. And I realize now that that was an expectation that probably wasn't accurate, but I wish they would be a little bit more innovative in that in terms of that. I know what I was told pre-Glenda. That said, I have an ethical issue in that we're within the parameters of our contract, and we gave our word. And so, even though I did not vote for it, to now sort of have disagreements, it just ethically bothers me. I'm cognizant of the issues that our residents are having, but to be truly fair, when they've come to me, I don't have one incident that has not been resolved that I have been personally in touch with. I call Glenda, I call whoever I'm supposed to call, and generally speaking, within a couple of days, it's taken care of. This should have been handled August 5th, 2015. And so as much as it pains me, I feel like I have to keep my word. I have not, again, had serious issues with Waste Management, so I will be supporting this resolution as much as it angers me that we weren't smart enough to take care of the Scout Service. And it just, the amount of money that I pay is astronomical, but it was a 4-1 vote. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Robin?
I agree with a lot of what Kevin has said. And sitting up here, I feel like it's our job to protect our lifestyle. And manure is a huge, huge part of protecting our lifestyle and making sure that animal keeping is affordable and something that folks can still have the opportunity to do in their backyards if they want to. And so when we look at items like this, I feel like Norco's done a really good job just as an organization of being innovative, thinking outside the box, being a small community that gets big stuff done. And I'm super proud of that fact. And I hope that as we look forward, 2024 is going to be here quicker than we know it, that we really take the time to make sure we're doing what's best for our community and protecting the lifestyle as we look to what the next contract looks like. I agree with Kevin. We're obligated because we signed a contract, and this was one of the stipulations of the contract. And then speaking to service, if I have problems with service, I go through the exact same steps and processes as a resident. And so I know that there are time lags and lots of time on hold and phone calls and then more phone calls when things don't get done. So I understand the frustration from that aspect as well. So, for me personally, just know this is a hard issue to vote on, and that I don't take it lightly. And then I hope as we move forward that, again, we can think outside of the box, we can be innovative, and we can do what Norco does best, and that's finding solutions to protect the lifestyle for those that live here.
Ted?
Yeah. I'm going to look at this a different way. The contract's there, and I'll agree with you. We got to handle it. I am not real happy with what we've been trying to do with the manure. I think, and this is no reflection on Waste Management. Waste Management, you're a waste hauler. That's about it. You guys haul it away, you throw it in the yards, and you handle our waste, our dumps. And you do a very good job with our regular trash, our organics, But let's face it, manure is not your forte. It's not any bad reflection on you. You just get rid of it the cheapest way you can because you're providing a service to us. I'm not degrading what you do, but essentially, manure is a problem, and you deal with it the best way you can. But there are solutions to it. We just haven't figured it out. Maybe the scientists or these guys look for it some other way that's economic. Who knows what's going to happen? But right now, it's not an easy thing to get rid of. And I know you do it for our city as a service. If it was easy, in a simple solution, we wouldn't have the problem with our self-haulers and what are we going to do there. But my thing goes back to what Kevin said. These rates, and I'll be honest, for those people listening to us, you're going to complain about it when you get your bill. And why they're not here, I have no idea. When you tell me there's no public comments and I don't hear anybody say anything, and they see these rates, this room used to be full when the contracts were negotiated. We held it up one time because they couldn't get it done. I don't know where they're at. But Kevin, I feel for you in the scout fees. We are not doing anything to protect our lifestyle and our horses. And in this deal, and you know that 8.56% CPI scares the hell out of me. And then when I saw it today, it was at 9.4. But our average resident's got to pay for this. I understand we can't do a lot with the solid waste, and this is not a reflection of the contract, with the solid waste disposable and the green waste and organic waste. But the manure is our key for this city. I see a $76,000 increase in revenue to the city's general fund. We just figured it's about $1.6 million on this franchise fee. Somewhere, I'm going to throw this back at staff. We're stuck with Waste Management charging us for that scout fee and for the manure disposal fee. But this extra money we're getting on its franchise fees, until this thing gets resolved, we need to come up and balance and take that CPI increase fees for at least this year on the manure disposable rate and the scout fee rate, and let it come out of that franchise fee rate. We've got to protect our horse owners and our manure, the people that have that. That's what I'm saying. We have to look for ways. You want to be innovative, want to come up with something different? It starts here. We're going to, July 1st, when they get their bill, the first time you guys send the bills out on this, and they see those rate increases, they're not here now, they should be. All of us should be getting phone calls. We're like, what the hell? That's over almost $3.40 increase in each container. And then more on the manure bin, the 2-yard manure bin. And you're going to hear about it. So we got to come up with innovative ways. And that's not with what Waste Management they're going to charge. But it's staff here and what we here in this council got to come up with a way to protect the horses we have in here. Otherwise, Chad's going to be dealing with more self-haulers that we still don't have a solution for. The private contractor's still hauling out of here. We still haven't come up with that solution. So I'm not happy with the contract of the fees, but we do have an obligation to it. But I'm throwing this back at staff. Figure out what to do with this added revenue so that we can use that without impacting our residents. Because we're probably going to vote for it unless we do.
Thank you, Ted. So, a couple notes, Kevin. If you remember way back when, Scout Service was always included in the manure pickup. And then we had that ad hoc committee. That was kind of our first negotiations with Waste Management?
Actually, we looked it up tonight. You probably remember Hal Clark. It was actually defeated, and it wasn't until the August, that date, we were on
Way back.
council,
Right.
and that's when the Scout Service really became draconian in terms of the costs. But prior to that, Waste Management attempted to say, oh, it was supposed to be implemented and it wasn't. And the Clark and Azevedo, Hall, Higgins, Harvey, they said no, pound sand, and they pounded sand. And that's why I objected so strongly that we needed to come up with it. But, I mean, again, I'm not clairvoyant, but I'm clairvoyant. We're now looking at a situation where we need to find ways to keep horses in the town. And the Scout Service is just super
One of the
expensive.
components.
Yep.
So, just a couple of notes. I mean, as far as Waste Management and their personnel and, their weekly service, I have no complaints. Their drivers are great. For the most part, the management is responsive to any concerns. I mean, there's always going to be somebody's that missed, or there's going to be a glitch. Any time you're in the customer service business, that's going to happen. Robin, you had asked a question earlier, and this was like our subcommittee on manure to energy. Ted and I and Chad, we've worked on this for years, that the economical solution is not out there yet. I'll still contend we have to have an annual meeting, and it's a check the box. Waste Management is a landfill company. They're not going to be our partner in this, okay? And I mean, face the facts. It's never going to happen. There's maybe some innovative things in the future, but if that innovation happens, it will benefit Waste Management before it benefits the city of Norco. If I understood you correctly, Andy, in our contract, that when you asked to negotiate this rate, so the possibility of this increase could have been negotiated and lowered by Waste Management. Okay.
That possibility exists if we're going to go along the line of what they were proposing for lowering the rate.
To extend the contract. Okay. It's a big game. So, not going to extend even consider extending the contract. We're going to go out to bid the next year. There's no doubt about it. But if they were the true partnership, they'd see what this increase is going to do to our residents, and not only animal keeping properties, but seniors, all our residents are going to be impacted by this, with the possibility that this could be a lower rate. I'm just going to let Bill finish. Did you have a comment or anything? No? Okay. So that's where I'm at with it. So if there's anything else, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion. I'm sorry. Let me finish a little bit. Ted, you had mentioned about the $76,000 increase in franchise fees. I think if this does pass, I'm not going to vote for this, but if this does pass, and the potential is Waste Management doesn't want to negotiate any further, that we should look at somehow rebating back this additional increase of $76,000, whether it's equitable to all the residents or just animal keeping. I think this is a discussion we could have with staff on it, but I think that franchise increase, we need to soften the blow to our residents.
Mr. Mayor, just as a matter of ethics, I would not participate in any rebate or anything like that. It wouldn't be appropriate, just so everybody understands that. I will pay the fee as it stands today because I'm sitting on council.
Has that potential increase in franchise fees already been figured into the operating budget for this year?
Yes.
So it's already been included. So as we look at our budgets, it's already been allocated as well. So I think doing something like that is not
Well, a couple of things.
possible.
We said the franchise fee increases. The rate of the franchise fee is not changing. Still 70.9%. The reason the revenue is increasing is because of the increase in the, so that apply that to whatever that potential increase is. That's why we come up with the $76,000. The $76,000, of course, is a good estimate, but reality, then when we're talking about 1.5 million, a little over 1.5 million for the total franchise fee, I think is within the margin of error for the total revenue. So that if the city council was to decide that that amount should be rebated back in some way to the residents, we wouldn't necessarily go in right now and change the budget.
And I guess on that, Robin, also, let's say we have approximately 7,500 residents, these properties, right?
Right.
It wouldn't spread too far, and then you also have impacts on the.
That would be $10, around $10.
What was that one politician that did that math and said, "Oh, it'd be $1 million a person or something," So, Bloomberg, I think.
Yeah.
So, I'll entertain a motion or a substitute motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote. It's okay. Mayor Newton, did you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Hoffman and Mayor Newton voting no.
Thank you. Going into public hearings.
Is it possible, Mr. Mayor, to take a break?
5 minutes? Good for you?
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll be back 9:15, please. Okay, public hearings. Call upon the city clerk, please.
Order presentation for public hearing items, staff report, presentation, council questions of staff, open public hearing for public comment, closed public hearing, and council discussion and action.
Thank you, Dana. Item 6A, approval and adoption of the city operating budget for fiscal year 2022, 2023. Lisette, are you going to do this?
I'm going to try.
Oh, have all the confidence in the world in you.
So I'm here to discuss the operating budget for fiscal year 22-23. Council with staff has had 3 budget workshops. 2 of them were dealing specifically with the operating budget, and one with CIP. They were held on May 18th, May 31st, and June 9th. So I'm just going to give a summary of the items that were discussed during the budget workshops. This is an overall fund summary of our major funds. Our general fund, expected revenues and expenditures, with an estimated 2.5 million surplus at the end of next fiscal year. Our water fund, revenues and expenditures with 100,000 surplus. Our sewer fund would have about 500,000, and cumulative of all our other funds would be about 2 million. In total, our appropriation for the next fiscal year would be about 52 million. Some of the big factors that affected our budget is our sales tax revenue projection. Currently, it's projected to increase slightly. There is rising inflation that may lead to a slowdown in consumer spending. That could negatively impact our sales tax revenue growth. Another item is our community development revenue, which is projected to increase significantly based on our planned and ongoing residential and commercial projects. As we know, due to the economic and other existing uncertainties, the projects may experience delays, which could negatively impact our revenues that have been projected in our budget. Another item is our community services revenue, specifically with our facility rentals and recreational programs. Those are projected to increase based on the resumption of our events. As far as for our water and sewer fund revenues, those are based on our current consumption levels and our current rate structure. There are no rate adjustments scheduled to be implemented during this fiscal year. Also note that for our water fund, one of the rising costs of purchased water and other costs will have our water fund sort of at a break-even point. And unless this trend is reversed, we might potentially need a future rate increase. Some of the key highlights in our budget for next fiscal year is our increase in the public safety contract rates. Sheriff at 2.5 increase, and our fire at 17.3%. Our increase in our wages and salaries, our increase in contributions of the employee health insurance premium subsidy, our increase in personnel positions that would meet our workloads as well as new programs, our pension contribution rates, as well as our cost to fund the retiree medical insurance benefits. There was also an increase in our general liability, our workers' comp, and other insurance programs. And we also increased third-party contractual and professional services. Like with the water, in the water fund, we have our increase of our purchased water as well as our sewer treatment cost. And we also see an increase in our IT spending towards our infrastructure, security, and software. The budget also includes budget enhancements that were discussed. Some of our new programs includes our community services mobile recreational program that would include also the purchase of a vehicle. We do have a couple new contractual services in the housing for a housing consultant under planning department, and a survey and demographic analysis for our communication division. The enhancements also include new full-time positions. This includes a building official in planning department, 3 community services coordinators in our community services department, a customer service supervisor in our finance department, an event coordinator in our facilities and maintenance department, and a facilities maintenance superintendent, which also includes a vehicle for that position, and a landscape maintenance district inspector. The community service coordinators, as well as the LMD inspector, those are actually conversions of 32-hour part-time employees to full-time. The budget also includes new part-time positions for a communication specialist in our communications divisions, and 2 community service aides for the mobile rec program. In our general fund, at the year end, currently our revenues are expected to exceed our expenditures, and which is projected to increase our fund balance. This represents about 91% of what we currently have in expenditures. This strong fund balance will continue to support and maintain our existing service levels if the general fund experiences any short-term revenue decline. At the end of the fiscal year, we do expect our fund balance to be at $25.2 million. And with that balance, we do have a policy that 25% of that is to be set aside for emergencies, so about $5.5 million. And with that, if you have any questions with regards to the operating budget, I'll be glad to take.
Okay, any council questions of staff? Kevin? Catherine? Robin? Ted?
Lizette, if you look at your last page of that, the projected surplus at $2.5 million, and that's based on revenues from sales tax and that type of thing.
Yes.
Majority of sales tax coming this town for the automotive industry.
Currently, yes, and also, just shopping at local stores.
But the majority of it
Yes.
comes from automotive. With the Fed increase today of 0.75% increase, I'm not a mathematician or financial consultant. How much impact do you think that's going to have on our car sales and that type of a thing? Is that $2.5 million you think is realistic on this? Because they're planning to raise it again at the end of the year, another 0.5%, if things don't go away. I'm just trying to be realistic on this.
Yeah, and even with our development projects where,
Yeah, the CPI fund is going to get killed, but I'm looking at just the sales tax alone. Is that a realistic thing to look at when you're looking at that kind of a Fed increase on the reserves?
As of right now, this is our best estimate. I know, we do come back at mid-year to see exactly what this rate increase that occurred today has an impact in the next 6 months, and at that time we will adjust that, and if we need to, we'll be cutting our costs.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No other questions? I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have any cards?
I have
on
no
this
speaker
matter?
cards for item 6A.
Thank you. Close the public hearing and bring it back to council discussion and action. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to make a I'm sorry. I apologize.
I was just going to make a comment too to thank staff for bringing this is a great budget. We're still projected to be in the black at the end of the year and not in the red. And I can see the amount of work and the time and the thought that went into that. And so we're in a really great financial position, and just want to thank the staff for their work on that.
And specifically to Andy, I want to thank you very much, Andy, for all the work you've done for the city of Norco. This is probably, it's your last budget. And, you know, Greg and I. Yeah. Well, I know I'm a broken record, but I can remember when we didn't have two nickels to rub together, and somehow you dug us out of a hole. And I really, really sincerely appreciate it. I really thank you for doing this, and I don't think residents truly understand the remarkable achievement that you've done here with this budget. And I think Greg and I have a unique perspective because we saw it. And what you've done is just, well, the truth is it's magic. And I so appreciate it, and I wish every resident of the city truly understood what you have done. You saved the city of Norco even before you were city manager with the fire department, all of those things. We would not be, we'd be in deep, deep trouble at this point. We might still be here, but we would not be in the position we're in. So thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
He'll be here for the mid-year budget.
Yeah. I'm afraid not. So, I'll always repeat that, Andy, starting with the fire department. When you were finance director, made it real clear to me we were in deep trouble. We'd be the county of Riverside. But moving on with that, Lisette and all your staff, you've done a great job. Okay. So, under discussion, I wanted to talk to Andy about this, and I wanted to throw out just a couple of things just to consider when we go for these new positions. And one was for building official, that there's certainly a need, but I would like also to suggest to human resources when we go to look for this position that we consider not in addition to, but instead of a chief building inspector. There would be a cost savings. That person would have, he or she would have the almost all the authority to direct and supervise counter staff, code enforcement, building and safety, inspections. They would be able to fill in. It's a very versatile position. We may find it's easier to fill than a full-blown building official. And then if we had to, we would have to have like Will Dan come in one day a week to sign any official, building official type statements. But could be a potential that something we should look at. And so I think the way we talked about it, Andy, was just basically when we kind of do a and or how to approach that when we advertise for that position.
Yes, we'll look at the pros and cons. The building official, any employee in this city, even department heads, all positions here are hands-on. So that building official is going to be expected to do the same things the chief building inspector would do. So we'll look at it, and especially when we factor in the 1 day additional cost for Will Dan to have a qualified building official who will actually sign documents. I understand what you're saying with respect to that potentially making it easier to find somebody.
Marketplace.
Yeah. So, but we'll look at it, and we'll do what we believe is right for the city.
Okay. That's all I had. If there's nothing else, I'll make a recommendation to adopt resolution number 2022-40, approving and adopting the city operating budget for fiscal year 2022, 2023, and authorizing appropriations therefrom. And once again, thank you, staff, for all your hard work.
Please vote. Councilmember Bash.
Nothing.
Okay. Do you want to vote verbally?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Item 6B, approval of the 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal years 2023 through 2027. Lissette.
So for our 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal year 23-27, budget workshops for the CIP were held on May 31st and June 9th. Staff and council reviewed the programs that were presented to be carried over, as well as new programs. We currently have an estimated beginning fund balance in our CIP projects of $37.7 million. We're estimating our revenues at 43.7 and our expenditures at 52 million. The Measure R projects were presented to the Measure R committee at their April 28th meeting to go ahead and bring forward to council for approval. And with that, if you have any questions on our CIP projects.
Do we have any council questions to staff? Hearing none? Or, I'm sorry.
No, I want to wait till my other comments. No, I don't have questions.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
No questions? I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Dana, do we have any cards?
We have one speaker card, Bill Naylor.
Good evening, Bill.
Only had to wait a couple of weeks for this. I had my card in the last time, and you ended up stopping the meeting. Just a couple of items. First of all, I think you guys have done an excellent job in trying to prepare capital projects, and I'd like to be kind of the squeaky wheel, as I usually am on trails, and just to remind or to have staff or council think about 2 projects that I had recommended to Streets and Trails and such, which was one was that I understand why they're talking about doing the trail along Corridon, both sides of the street. It's kind of an entry to our city and such. Of course, the trail there, the fencing and everything is really in much better shape than a lot of other areas in the city. But I understand trying to spread the work out between the city so everybody feels like they're getting some benefit. But there are 2 areas that I would like to see you consider if you can get the funding to do it, since one of them, I was told, might get done this year, and then I guess they ran out of funds, and that was over at Snipes Park, where they would have put in they put the double rail fencing or double-sided fencing through the park, except for the one area by the parking lot. And I was told that that would get done, and I guess they ran out of funds or whatever, and it has not gotten done. So I'm hoping that maybe we can finish that up. The other area was that you might consider, assuming that we have some extra funds, during the year on this, we may or may not, you might consider doing Detroit since we're going to have the freeway finished up and such. It'd be nice to have this whole area from Detroit all the way up to Valley View completed. Those are the 2 areas I think that could really use some attention. But otherwise, I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Michelle, will you follow up with Bill on Snipes?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Do we have any other cards?
We have no further speaker cards.
Okay, thank you. go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion and action. Ted, you had a comment?
Yeah, my comment is, and it goes back to what I said on the general fund. We're headed for some scary time here with funding and as far as we go through and the cost of materials and that. And so to my directors and to that, I would suggest, and I'm going to make sternly suggest, we get these carryover projects done and quit holding on to them and wait for the unicorn to show up on them. Let's get them done. And when you guys are looking at your budgets and you see, as you well know, like I said earlier, they raise the interest rates. We're going to see some things not happen. And some of these building projects that not only us, but throughout the community, things are going to get slowed down. The cost of these interest rates are going to snowball through. And we need to be prepared for those rate increases and the cost of material. So, but let's get these carryover projects done so we're not sitting on projects been there for 3 years. And that's all I'm asking you because I just get tired of seeing them. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Robin? Catherine? Kevin? I guess not quite on the topic of the CIP, but we certainly in our workshops talked about carryover projects, and I think that if staff knows the feeling of council on these carryovers, and that I think that certainly can support that. We don't run that. We shorten that list this year. Whatever happens to the economy is, I don't know if we have much control over that, but if things slow down, prices will go down. That may help us to complete more projects, especially if costs come down. One of the things I'm real confident in is our cash position, that we're in a great cash position. So if the economy does slow down, that's where opportunity is. So we'll see how that shakes out, and that's from the Andy O'Carroll School of Finance. That right? Be in cash. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. So that position I'm fine with. If there's anything else, I'll entertain a recommendation.
Second.
Danny, you have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-41.
Please vote.
I broke it.
And your vote.
Yes.
And motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, thank you to staff for all your work. Item 6C, continue public hearing recommendation. Continue public hearing to City Council regular meeting scheduled for Wednesday, July 6th, 2022. Motion to approve.
Please vote. There you are, Kevin. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, City Council staff communications. Does any city staff have anything to report? City attorney? Nope. City manager? Your last budget, Andy? Okay. Okay, City Council, Ted.
Yeah, God, you're so short.
I
Again,
do it. It's
you know what?
intentional. Come
I
on.
know you do. Yeah, you do it intentionally. And I don't know if it's on our list of things of our approved projects, but somehow or another, just for everybody to know, for the VA's office has a list June 27th as PTSD awareness time, and they actually have screening they do available. It's going to be on their webpage, but it's for people that, especially for veterans, for post-traumatic stress syndrome, and that is on June 27th. You can go on the VA website and get it, and there's criteria they ask you to do it online. But I think as a city we should be recognizing that does exist. It's there. We've had, and I reminding myself on Sunday when Jeff Anderson showed up with his, who's from the Warrior Project, his dogs went to several people that had PTSD. That's been a good thing. So just want to remind everybody about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Robin? Catherine?
Yes, just one thing. As we discussed tonight, we only have 2 years left on the contract with Waste Management, and it's coming up in 2 years. So in order to get our next contract right, we need to get started sooner rather than later. I'd like to request, with the support of the council, a report from the city manager that would have a time schedule and recommendations for a process so that we make sure that we get this right for our residents and our community.
You mean the process of when to start?
Yeah, and if we need to look at, any kind of consultant to analyze our contract, to look at other contracts, to really see what it is that we need, so that we're really making sure that we're going into it with the most and the best information that year, so that our RFP process, the RFP is really looking at what it is that we need and what we want. And so, I spoke with Andy about it, as many of us have, as this item was on the agenda, and what would be the best thing in that 2 years. It seems like a long time, but it's not.
No, it's not.
And so I'd like to hear those recommendations come back, or a report come back on what kind of the options and timeline would be, so that we can make sure that we do that, right? That we are ready. It doesn't sneak up on us and we get into a spot again where, we're having to make difficult decisions that might not be in the best interest of what we're looking for.
Do you have time to do that? Or do you want Chad to do it? Would you delegate that? I mean, I know we look at like a year and a half. It's about an 18-month process. And, but then, like you said on the RFP, if we're going to have a consultant in that choice, we have some very, very versatile residents in the waste management industry in town, that ad hoc committee also with that. So you've been delegated. Okay. Anything else, Catherine? Kevin?
I had kind of an eye opener with Robin and meeting with the EAT folks. We're looking for to lease or utilize a piece of property to create a demo farm. And I think, given the situation, we're talking about food shortages and things like that, and one of the ways that you are able to protect large lots is you grow food on them. And there's a lot of legislation that supports that. And I'm wondering, mice. I'm wondering if maybe we might look at purchasing a piece of property to do a demo farm. Otherwise, I'll keep talking to some of the people about using one, but I think that looking for a demo farm might be a good way. If we can get people to utilize their large lots, it may help us to protect the lifestyle even more. So maybe agendize it to look at that, or I don't know, how do we approach that, John? How do we approach that, Andy?
In order to discuss it, you're going to have to agendize it.
So I guess what I'm looking for is maybe we can agendize all aspects of it, so that maybe we find out if in fact there's legislation that supports it, but it might be an avenue to go down.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
because this wasn't on there. I've had to add this one. So, there you guys go. Are you all seeing it?
Yeah, demo farms.
Yeah.
That'd be a great
Robin,
barn
did it
name.
come up? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll clarify it on the minutes.
I'm good with it. What do you have in your water bottle, Michelle?
Oh, sorry. No, cancel. Show results. And motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, Dana. With that, we're adjourned.